Hi, and thanks for joining the SJ Child Show. The SJ Child Show brings value to families through education and resources. But the SJ Child Show isn't just about me, it's about us as a community. Join me as we help educate and support our community, help bring kindness and love and inclusion to all. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and watch. I really appreciate all the support from all of the viewers and listeners, and I just want to let you know I want you to join me on this journey. Come and follow my social media, and let's do this together. Enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to the SJ Childs Show. I'm your host, SJ Childs, and today I have a great guest that is right here in my, well, not here with me in my house, but here in the same city-ish around here. And it's Tina Jones. Tina, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, are you feeling the same like spring fever from this nice 66-degree weather out there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've had like these crazy ups and downs. It was like 60 one day and then like 17 the next.
No.
And then snow out of the blue. We've had some crazy weather. But yeah, today it's like, ooh, it's finally warming up.
Gorgeous.
I'm so ready for spring.
Oh, me too. Me too. And it's so funny. I'm sure when this will air, it'll be springtime. So everybody will be like, hey, it's already spring. It's almost summer. But yeah, I'm so happy to have you on the show. We met in a local networking group. And my favorite thing, I call it a lifestyle, is networking. It's my lifestyle. I do it everywhere I go. And I meet wonderful people like you along the way. So I'm so happy to share your story today.
Cool. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do too. I'm very much a people person and I love meeting new people. That's like my favorite thing in the whole world. It's like an adventure to meet a new person, to find out who they are and what they love, and it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. And, on my show, it's great. I mean, we did have a chance to talk before, but normally or sometimes I don't even know about anything about a person. And so I love to say that it's like people get to see me making friends and watch the magic happen and see, how that, I just love it too. It's one of my favorite things. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us an introduction of who you are, and then we'll just go from there.
Let's see, from now backwards or from
from backwards till now.
Like what order do you want it in, and how much? Like, so I'm a life coach, and actually that's one of the strategies I do with a new client is tell me your life story in 3 minutes, and I time them. Because we go off into these stories sometimes and they can go on and on. So I'm a life coach. And I've been an entrepreneur for going on 26 years now. And my first business was, well, it was making pies. It was a short-term business, but my first one was a daycare because it met my family's needs. So when I help coaching clients that are working on a business strategy and what do I want to do, everything starts with your personal core values and what matters to you and what kind of a lifestyle do you want for you and your family. So my business over the years has changed because my family's changed.
Yeah.
So I'm an empty nester now. I have 3 kids, and 2 of them I raised, and my first son I actually placed for adoption.
Okay.
So I'm a birth mom also. And yeah, so currently I'm teaching emotional wellness and mindfulness. It's been my passion since I was a kid to understand, why do some people succeed? And why do some people who I see as amazing and awesome self-sabotage and never reach the potential that I see in them? I think it's one of my superpowers to be able to see, I think people are amazing. And when I meet them, I'm like, oh, they're great at this and they're great at that and they're wonderful and amazing. And then I'm like, well, why aren't they doing this? And that's what I saw with my siblings. I'm the youngest of 5. And, being so much younger, 5.5, 6 years younger, I was like, oh, they're so amazing. And then it's like, why can't they do life?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Interesting.
And so that's been my life's journey as to why some people can't do life, and including myself. Because then once I got to be a young adult, I had some life failures. My first marriage ended in abuse. It was kind of a not very loving relationship.
Yeah.
Well, not at all. And then was single mom for a lot of years. So at this age and stage in my life, I have a lot of personal resources from life experience, from the things that I've studied, and I bring all of that to the table when I work with clients.
That's amazing. It's so important too that people can relate to you when you're a life coach, I think, because they want to put their trust in you. And if you build that trust and relationship, then they'll be more apt to listen to what you have to say and really dive deep and dedicate themselves to doing those, the things that you advise.
Yes, and that's actually one of the things clients say about me is that I'm very relatable. I've lived a lot of life experience and been through life's traumas and ups and downs. And typically, when I teach a class or work with a client, I teach things that I've applied to my own life. So they're not just something that somebody I've read in a book somewhere. These are things that I've actually worked through in my life and gotten better at.
I love that. I do the same thing with my, coaching and consulting with autism families. I give them advice on all the successes that I've had in my life in hopes that it could help any family, right? With their needs too.
And I'm remembering that was one of the things that we talked about that connected us was neurodivergence.
Yes.
Because I only recently admitted that I'm ADHD.
Yes.
And that came from an EEG, a brain mapping, basically,
Yes.
that my doctor had done. And when the brain mapping printout came out, it was like, oh, I can't hide anymore.
Here's the real truth. No, I think it's wonderful and so healthy and inspiring for others, and especially those with children with ADHD as well. My brains just went through all the acronyms. I think it's so special because, we often, as far as I'm concerned, I like to look at real life adults, real life autistic adults to kind of find out more information on how I can help my kids. And I think that is a wonderful way to do it through that type of experience. Yes, you can go to clinical things. You can listen to doctors with their opinions and their testing of things. But when you meet someone who has that same real life experience and you say, okay, how did you strategize to get through those things? That's when you get real world answers.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I had this. Well, my family didn't go to doctors, and mental health was not a thing that was discussed in my household. I actually grew up in a fundamentalist, evangelical, Christian environment and was socially isolated. So I didn't have radio or television or public school or friends or events or so actually when the pandemic happened in 2020 and the world shut down, I kind of went, now it's going to be a whole lot easier to explain my childhood to people, because that was like what I lived.
Yeah.
It was a super tiny private school. I had like all of 15 kids in my world that were either cousins or, the one family that I grew up with or missionaries that had come home. So my world was really small, and we just didn't. Actually, my father attributed like any mental illness or anything to demon possession of all the weird things.
Sure.
So let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Definitely. It's so
that's a whole other conversation. But
generations, right? They're so different. We've come so far with our generational thinking. And nowadays, I mean, you can't turn the channel on TikToks, YouTube's shorts, whatever, Instagram, Facebook's on the news. You can't turn it without hearing a story of some type of neurodivergence, whether it's a, an actress that's, come out as autistic and now everybody's celebrating, or, there's the unfortunate ones too, but it's so much more accepted and so much more widely talked about now.
It is. There's and brain science, even in the last 10 years, have come so far. And I talk to my kids, like my one son that I raised, my middle son. Well, actually, both my boys think my older boy thinks he is somewhat ADHD, and my other son is very much ADHD. He's just like me. So it's, I have the conversation with him, and he's like, Mom, everybody my age sees a therapist.
Yeah.
Like just a thing, which I'm like really happy for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I want my kids to educate themselves and have tools for emotional regulation, which is actually one of the things that happen with ADHDers is sometimes they're emotionally dysregulated.
Yeah.
So learning emotional regulation tools, mindfulness is a skill for any human, neurodivergent or not.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important to have those resources and to make those resources available for our communities. And so if you're listening to this and you need any kind of mental health resources, please feel free to reach out to, Tina or myself, and we'll help guide you down those roads.
Which is exactly what I do. I teach people tools. I don't want somebody to totally be dependent on me. I want them to learn how to help themselves. Yeah. So I teach self-regulation tools, mindfulness tools, language and communication, because relationships happen in words.
That is so true.
The words you use for yourself and the words you use out here in the world are super important. They make a difference in all of your relationships, whether it's work or family or friends.
Yeah, that is so certainly true. And you have to teach, especially the little kids, mine are 10 and 12. And so I'm coming from a different parenting space. But it's really important that I see, my 10-year-old daughter, that she's using the right words when she's out in public and with her friends. And, we just asked her yesterday, like, are you going to be some kind of a mean girl? Because she's a little bit sassy.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? I would never do that. And I'm like, okay, she's just a mean girl at home. Don't ever let her listen to this episode, please. But no, she feels like she can be herself when she's here. And as you can understand, she goes and she masks out in the world. She masks her autism. She masks her ADHD. And when she comes home, she's exhausted. She lets it all out. And, we're the brunt of that sometimes, but we give her grace and understanding that those things, learning how to self-regulate when you're overwhelmed in those situations, it takes time.
Yeah, and teaching them the tools is super important. Yes, I am in a different space because I'm actually a grandma now.
Oh, congratulations. I can wait, but can't wait, right?
Right. So it's very fun to be able to talk to my daughter about parenting stuff and talk her through challenges that she has, because her son is 3.5, a little over 3 years old. So he's just talking in complete sentences, and so I'm working with her to help teach him emotional regulation tools and the language of emotion now, because putting words to an emotion instead of acting it out, but actually saying the words of what it is, helps make it something outside of yourself. And it's more workable then. It's something that you can work with, and then helping look for what's the need behind that, because we all do what we do for a really good reason. And I was about to say another word there, but I wasn't sure what your podcast would allow. I was like, hey, can I swear here and be okay? But
yeah, well, they usually don't pick too, if it's not too bad, it can go through. But yeah, I love that. Just over this last weekend, this is so interesting. And I hope that I'm saying the right things to interject here, but over this last weekend, I went up to visit my grandfather, who is recently, in an Alzheimer's unit, and we had a meeting with our other family and his wife, and he's going to be able to come home. And one of the things, kind of in that family meeting, was helping her understand. And this is, a 78-year-old woman, but we're still coaching and helping because it doesn't matter what age you're at. If you were never given the tools to help emotionally regulate yourself or understand how to communicate in a confident, self-empowering way, you don't know how. And that's all there is to it. And that's okay. Like we were just saying, older generations didn't give their kids, they didn't have the tools, they didn't have the same ideas that we have today. So one of the things that I had said to my grandma was, well, she said, I just don't know how to express the feelings I'm having at the moment. And I said, well, in all due respect, we can almost take this down to the same way that I teach my children how to do this on a kind of an elementary, rate. And that is, what if you took 3 or 4 colored crayons? The yellow represented an emotion, the red represented an emotion, and so forth. And when you had those emotions come up, you could write it down in that color, or, to help you and to help whoever you're working with understand how you're feeling. What do you think about that?
I love that.
Okay, good.
That is great.
Sure.
So I call them resources, but that's like a metaphor or a story or a visual picture. So that's a resource, a visual image of that you put on paper of the emotion. And that's beautiful, especially if it's somebody who has Alzheimer's, who is probably mentally a little bit younger or forgetful. That's a very nice visual for the person to know. Yellow is probably happy. At least that's in my mind what I was
yeah, me too.
Like, yellow, happy, green, hungry. I don't know. Like,
sure.
But yeah, and that's actually a really brilliant way to teach a toddler.
I think so. I think that that's a good way to help them to start understanding. And only from my own experience in being at a women's or a parents retreat long ago, and they had this chart up on the wall or a presentation, and she had the, kind of the middle line. And when you drop down past that line, that's when you lose control. And she had it color coded. And so she said, anytime you feel yourself slipping into that orange to red, you need to have these tools in hand to help yourself get back into that green area. And I completely agree. And I think that once I was able to, like you said, visually see that and think, okay, I can visualize this when I'm getting into those moments. And to be honest with you, those moments happen far and few between. Like, hardly ever do we have any kind of, moments where we have to regulate as parents. So we've done the work, right?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm helping my daughter create is a time in corner.
Yes.
A time in space for my grandson. Because, we as parents, we want to, the child's misbehaving, we want to put them in a timeout.
Right.
Or sometimes we make a child feel like, oh, shh, because the parent is embarrassed. A child should never be responsible for a parent's emotion.
Correct.
And if a parent is feeling embarrassed or overwhelmed because the child is in dysregulation and they're upset, totally not good.
No.
The child should be allowed to have their emotions and give them space to go, this is our crying corner. So if you need a time for yourself, go over here to your time in corner, and there's your favorite blankie, and you can color, and there's some pictures on the wall. And, if I can sit here with you and be with you and not trying to fix it for you, but to help you understand what's going on, just kind of like what a life coach does.
Yes, exactly.
Is I'm just there as an empathetic person and maybe teaching you tools for in the moment and helping you come to an awareness for yourself, because each person has their own truth within them.
Yeah. And that is so true. And, little kids, I I probably my listeners are like, she's saying it again, but I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to treat your children like humans, treat your children like children. Don't expect them to be adults. Don't expect them or have expectations of them to have lived through all the experiences you have, and therefore have the reactions to experiences or the reactions to those things. Those are things you teach them. And you obviously they learn through example. So if you're always showing them that they are, have to be quiet, or that they can't have their voices, or that their behaviors are bad, so they have to be punished for them, that's just so incorrect. And I know that the world doesn't like to hear that, but it is so incorrect. Behaviors are human responses to their needs.
Exactly.
What is the need the human is? What
Yes!
is it? What is a human need?
Absolutely. Which is exactly what I teach to adults. Like, we do what we do for a reason.
Yeah.
The behavior is a result of a need that's not being met. Exactly. So it's either a need is met or a need is not met. And what is that thing that's not being met? Do they need compassion? Do they need to have some space? Do they need friendship? Do they need companion? Are they hungry? Mm-hmm. Are they tired? Like, there's something going on. And when you look for the need that's driving the behavior, then you can, and as a parent, you're in a space of compassion and understanding and listening, and you help the child to be empowered.
Yes.
Because in that space, a person is empowered. There's a quote from Brene Brown that blame is a discharge of my own personal pain. So when you hear somebody who's in blame and judgment and storytelling, they are completely disconnected from self, and they don't know what's going on. They're like, it's the world's problem, or it's your problem. But instead, I teach people to come back to themselves and learn some self-compassion and find out what they need. Yes. And then they're in a place of personal power, because then they have choice. How am I going to meet that need?
Yes, definitely. And something popped into my head, and it's something my husband had brought up a little while ago. And that is, and I know I keep coming back to kids because I just love talking about them. But he was mentioning about, and this can go for humans of all ages. When someone is lacking or wanting or needing human connection, a lot of times adults or parents can say, oh, they want attention. Oh, they need attention. They're looking for attention seeking. Sometimes it's connection, and we need to be patient and graceful with our children and recognize when they want to be close to us, or they linger around to ask their questions or whatever. That's connection that they're wanting and looking for.
Yes. When I always taught my kids that when they came into the kitchen or they wanted to help, yeah, sure, you can help. Like, I think my daughter was like 4 years old, and I had gone in the room and taken a nap, and it was weekend or something, and I came out and she had mopped the kitchen floor. So it was like soggy. Like, don't go in the kitchen, you're gonna fall and die, because it was like she had mopped the kitchen floor because it was something that she was like, I'm helping mom. And it was like, oh, thank you for that. Like, they're not going to do things perfectly the first time round, and so but include them in what you're doing, so it's a together, it's an us thing. It's not like you go do the child thing and I come over here and do the grown-up thing. It's like, no, you include them in all the grown-up activities and the things, and you talk about it, and here you do your part and here I do my part, and it's I don't know, what would you like for dinner? What would you like for dinner? How would like, include them in the conversations and include them in all the activities.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like outside activities. I think that it's so important when kids are, my kids, like I said, are 10 and 12. My 12-year-old is a little bit more nonverbal than my 10-year-old. And so I could take the 10-year-old, stay in the car, send her into 7-Eleven. She can buy something. She can get her money back and come to the car. Wonderful. An independent experience for her. My son, not so. That would not work out as well. Like I don't even know if I could let him out of the car, right? At the 7-Eleven. Like, I don't know what that would look like. So you have to really take each child with their own maturity levels and their own understandings, but teaching them life skills and how to do these types of things are so important. And I think that parents miss the opportunities when they don't take them.
Because it's a real opportunity for connection.
Yeah, definitely.
And it can be fun. I mean, we used to have Friday night was pizza night, and we made it ourselves. So everybody got their own thing, and I'd put all the ingredients out, and you get to make it however you want it. If you want just cheese, or if you want just pepperoni, or if you want whatever. Yeah. Like teaching the kids how to make the choices for themselves, especially around food. I had one child that was a picky eater. So the more I empowered him, he was very sensory, and from a little age, and he would get on one food thing and he would stick with it. And I remember my mother telling me, because I'd call her and go, "Mom, what do I do?" And she would say, "He's not going to starve himself to death. I promise."
Yeah.
She's like, "Just let him choose."
Oh, wow. I'm so happy she said that and didn't say force him, right? Because that's what a lot of people would have said.
So I had an open refrigerator policy.
Yeah.
And when I would do meals and snacks in between, and I served things family style, and it was, and then I included them in the cooking process.
Yeah.
Or in doing, or we gave food fun names, because
fun.
He was, I remember getting him to eat Campbell's vegetable soup, which was like an adventure, but it was like he couldn't recognize the things because they were all together, and it was like, what's this and what's this? And so I called it Monster Soup. It was like all of a sudden it became fun, and it had this cool name, and then
I love that.
And then he ate it and liked it.
Well, that's the important part, isn't it? I have a picky eater too, and we're on like five items or something, and it's tough. And it has already reared its ugly medical head, and he got a kidney stone.
Oh, yeah. Well, the two things that a child can control is what goes in and what comes out.
Yep, exactly.
And if they need control in their life, they will control those two things.
Yeah, that is true, isn't it?
And so, like, my daughter's been trying to potty train, and I'm like, honey, he will do things when he's ready. And you just leave him space for that.
Yeah.
Like, brains
I can't agree more.
Time to develop. And, so you have two children that are neurodivergent, and my kids are pretty much normal, except for my one son was very ADHD. But brains develop when they develop and how they develop. And if you understand your child's development, or even your adult's development, if you're working with adults, like, where are they at on the spectrum of life?
Yes.
And being open to understanding that. And I believe that everybody is doing the best that they know how in that moment.
I love that, Tina, because so many parents and schools and therapists will force that time frame to happen. And I think the one really major thing wrong with our society today is time frames. We need to throw the time frames away. And I'm not saying that offices aren't open from this time and that time, and schools and whatever, but my son was in pull-ups till he was 7. Who wants to change a kid's butt till they're 7? Nobody. Right. But I also advocated, look, he has his whole life to sit on a toilet. Okay. He has his whole life ahead of him. He has his whole life to eat a sandwich if he feels like it, when he feels like it. Like it's not my expectation or intentions for him to be forced and traumatized into doing something he's not ready for.
So you just hit on the clue, on the right word there, which is force. So there is several different kinds of power. There's power with a person, or there's power over a person. And if you have power over someone and you're using force and manipulation, that's abuse.
Yes, 100%.
And if you have power with a person and you are with them in allowance that this is where your brain is at right now, and now you know that your son is neurodivergent and that was just where his brain was at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, giving him opportunity, giving him education and power with, like, this, we're here with you. I'm here with you, instead of me trying to force somebody into being something that they're not. And I agree with you. That is a huge thing that schools, businesses, they want to have power over and control, because if we don't have control, society is going to just go to hell in a handbasket.
But look what's happening with all the control they have now. It is hell.
No, but when you allow someone to have freedom of choice, then they get to experience the consequences of their own choice.
Yep. And which helps them in their whole entire life. It's so silly story. We went to Lagoon about 5 years ago. And so I think my daughter was, 5 years old, 4 or 5, just really little. And it was towards the end of the day, and at the kind of close to the entrance of the water park is like, of Lagoon is like a water fountain. And she wanted to get into that water so bad. And we told her, it's like 6, it's getting close to the evening. As soon as you get wet, you will not be dry and you'll be cold from the wet, from all of these things. It's your choice. What did she do? Went and jumped in that fountain, got all wet. And for the whole rest of the time that we were there, sat shivering and cold and miserable. And why did I do that? And oh my gosh, and of course, we didn't let her, it was summertime. she was fine. But now we can say, hey, Birdie, remember that time at Lagoon? Remember that time? And she remembers that we had tried to guide her with advice that would be helpful for her. But we also understand that she is a very free spirit and she wants to learn by natural consequences. So we love her.
Yeah. And that's where then parents want to, or people in general want to pour salt in the wound and say, and shame the other person.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no point in shaming someone, because we all know when we've screwed up.
Yeah, that's true.
Feel pain. And instead just being, oh, how's that working out for you?
Yeah.
Right. How's that working out for you? Yeah. So
I should say, we don't use it like to hold it over her head, but just to show her, like, we care about you, and we want, the advice we give you and the parenting we do is to help you make the best choice, because we love you and we want you to be happy, number one. Totally. And safe and all of those things. So yeah, I think it's
you
great.
You can bring those stories back, and I wasn't saying that was you.
Okay. But I didn't want to feel like I was being a blamer.
No, I get that from you, but it's like, so you want to bring those stories back. Remember that time that, just because I want to let you know that, hey, I'm here for you. So I'm going to give you my opinion, and then you're free to choose within that constraint. And of course, as a parent, you have limits to what freedoms you give them based on their ability at that point in time. Just like you said, your one son, you wouldn't give him the freedom to go in and make a purchase at 7-Eleven because he's not able to at this point.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. And
you provide them choices.
Yeah. And maybe that's something we work on, right? Maybe that's a tool where I let his sister take him in, or I just, so that he has a little bit more freedom, not just by mom's hand all the time, and he starts to gain some independence. In fact, just today, he learned how to microwave his own popcorn. It's a simple thing, but he's 12 and he's never done it. And I was like, hey, let's just walk through this process. You do it, I'll tell you and show you, because then now if he wants popcorn tomorrow, he doesn't have to ask me to make it for him. I really hope that he does it himself. That would be fantastic.
Right. We want our kids to eventually be independent and productive adults. And if we continue to do for them, then they will never learn to do it for themselves. And that
Exactly.
also comes with emotional regulation. If we are the ones shaming them or manipulating them or controlling them and or solving their emotional problems for them, then they don't learn how to self-regulate. But if we teach them tools, whether it's breathing or mindfulness or timeouts, time ins, whatever it is that that child needs to
Yeah.
help themselves.
Oh, I love that. I love that you said that. It's so important that we, like you said, we do with and not for in so many ways. And I know from personally that that's kind of, the autism community totally feels that way, that we want to do with and be able to have skills gained from doing those types of things. So that's fascinating. And I'm sure that, like you said, that's a lot of what you also tell your adult clients.
Yeah, totally. So one of the classes I teach is a compassion skills workshop that it comes from the work of Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication. And what he says, he describes violent meaning anything that creates disconnection. So language that creates disconnection and language that creates connection and compassion in your world. So it's learning how, the 4 simple steps. And for me, I think that is like the fundamentals of everything that I teach. Because once they start there, then everything kind of builds on that. Because the language that you use is not just body language and eye contact, but it's the actual words that you say.
Yeah.
Because in my home growing up, it was either avoidant or explosive. And there wasn't compassion, there wasn't words of encouragement. Yeah. So then as a young adult, I knew I wanted to do it differently, and I did with my kids, but I wasn't doing it differently for me. And because my internal conversations were horrible. Yeah. And critical and mean. And then my, marriage blew up. And so I had to learn how to parent myself better.
Isn't that the truth? I love that. It's so important that we take some time to self-care, to find our own space, to be able to revive and all of those things. And, for me, I think podcasting has been such a great tool for me because I'm very social, obviously. And, it's so hard being a stay-at-home mom with sweatpants and ponytails for 10 years. And then all of a sudden I have this opportunity to be social again, be social with adults, have this opportunity. And not only did that exciting part come, but a new love for myself came out of it and a new Sarah-ness about me. And I recognized, oh my gosh, like I still look great in makeup. I still look great when my hair is done and I have nice clothes on. Like I had forgotten about that part of myself for so long being a caregiver. And when I embraced that part about myself again, I could see not only did it empower me, but it empowered my children and my husband. They saw, wow, like she didn't just sit still in a spot, like she climbed the mountain in front of us. So
I love that. That was so much fun to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
That was so much fun. I love what you said. I love what you said is I found my Sarah-ness.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's one of the big keys is I help people become their best selves.
Exactly.
Like, where is the Sarah-ness in you?
Yeah, exactly.
And how can I help you find that magic spark that you are? Because everybody's different and we all have certain strengths and we forget them, or we've gone to over giving and over caretaking and forgotten about ourselves, which is actually part of a dysregulation. One of the things we do when we're dysregulated is, we fight or we run away or we freeze. And then the fourth one that often isn't talked about is overgiving and caretaking of others. It's called fawning, is the technical term. But
Interesting.
it is, you hear people fight or run away. You hear those, but the fawning one isn't talked about all that much, because fawning is, oh, I just have to caretake the other person so they don't become upset.
Guilty of that. I'll say I'm
Which
definitely
was
guilty
mine,
of that.
right?
Yeah.
The way I grew up as in a religious culture,
Yes.
as a woman, I was taught to be a good caregiver. And then
Yeah.
if I'm going to be ultra spiritual, I should be the subservient woman, and because I'm less than a man, and I shouldn't speak up for myself. And I remember the first time I sat in a class and looked up on the wall at the chart of needs, and it was like, I have needs. And I must have been 38 years old.
Oh.
And I looked at that wall of feeling words and needs words. And I just sat there and cried, because I'm like, I can ask for what I need. That was the words going through my head. Like, how do I even ask for what I need? How do I even do that? Because I've been so giving away of myself that I didn't even know who I was.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
It took me a while to figure out who I was, because my whole world had been doing everything for, my childhood was like performance and do for the family or for the church or for the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then so I had to figure out as an adult, what do I like? Who am I? Which is kind of weird, but
it's so inspiring though, because you have, and now you are doing that, and you're not telling a victim story of how, it's okay to tell the facts. And, that's one thing I hope, bless my parents' hearts, they're absolutely fabulous and wonderful. But if they listen to my podcast and they hear anything that I say, well, I'm an only child from divorced parents. You can't make that easy. You just can't. It's hard. It's, they moved states. I had to move from state to state. You can't make it sound easy. And I know that sometimes, I've just in saying, oh, there were times where my childhood was really hard and, kind of hurt my mom's feelings. And of course, it was never intentional for that purpose. But in the same breath, I need to have that kind of grace and understanding that it was, it was lonely and hard. And sometimes I felt like, that was what my life would consist of, is just constant loneliness. It's not like I have found an amazing partner, wonderful children. I'm part of something. I'm part of something more than I thought I'd ever be part of. A happy, successful family. So,
well, what I know now is that every human on the planet has experienced trauma in their childhood. Every human. It's part of brain development that there's at least 4 times: age 5, age 10, age 14, 15, and then somewhere in your early 20s. I can guarantee you that you've had a moment in your life where you made a key decision that was traumatic for you.
yeah.
I know that now, but because of my isolation, I thought my experience was completely special and different, and I was weird, and I never talked about it to anyone, actually, until I moved here to Utah about 8 years ago, and met some people that I was able to finally tell my childhood story, and it wasn't all that weird. And I started learning that it's every human on the planet has experienced trauma in their life, and I'm really not all that special. Like, we just all do. And that's why my passion now, living my passion, is helping people heal from those traumas and become their best selves and get over it.
Yeah, definitely.
Get on with life.
I love it. I love that you said that. It really comes down to your accountability and your choices you're going to make. You fuel your thoughts, so you decide what you're going to fuel them with.
Absolutely. And you don't have to believe every single thought that pops into your head.
That is true too.
Because they
That
are,
imposter syndrome is real.
yeah, well, because there's the old parts of your brain, and the old parts of your brain are just trying to keep you safe. And that's where that critical mind comes in, and it wants to tell you all these bad things. Like when you stay in your creative mind of what's possible and what do I want and what would be great here, what would work for both of us, when you stay in that creative mind and you ask those kind of creative questions, that's your higher brain, and it can silence your lower animal brain.
Yeah, that's so true. Your animal instincts, huh?
Yeah, we are animals.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh my gosh.
But we also have evolved to more. So.
I know. Yay. Lucky for us, right? It has been so much fun having you on the show today and chatting with you. And I think we better do another because it feels like we just haven't covered all the subjects. So,
I'm sure there's lots of other subjects.
Where can we go if people want to reach out to you for coaching and life coaching? Tell us your website or social media so that we can get a hold of you.
So my website is tinajones.net. And on Facebook, I'm Tina Jones Empower You. And the same on Instagram. I'm hardly ever on Instagram, and I am on LinkedIn also, but
okay, great.
Those are the ways you can get a hold of me.
I love that.
Yeah, tinajones.net.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to have all of those links down in the description and up on the screen so you can see them typed by way she talks away. Oh, it was so much fun to have you on today. I love your spirit and your energy and just feel like rejuvenated talking to you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I feel like we could just talk all day.
I think we could.
I think we could too.
I guess my other appointments will just have to wait. No, just kidding. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely be in touch.
Okay, sounds good. This was fun. Thanks.
The SJ Child Show, produced by SJ Childs LLC. Thanks to all my viewers and listeners for your continued love and support. And thank you to the guests of the SJ Child Show. It's been an honor to have you on the show. Thank you to everyone who continues to support me. Go to my social media and let's build this community together through kindness, compassion, and education for others. Hi, and thanks for joining the SJ Child Show. The SJ Child Show brings value to families through education and resources. But the SJ Child Show isn't just about me. It's about us as a community. Join me as we help educate and support our community, help bring kindness and love and inclusion to all. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and watch. I really appreciate all the support from all of the viewers and listeners, and I just want to let you know I want you to join me on this journey. Come and follow my social media, and let's do this together. Enjoy the show. Introducing Autism Vehicle Home Safety Kits, Emergency Responder, alert stickers, personal profiles with autism needs and a communication board, masks and earplugs, keeping families and emergency responders educated and safe. Get yours today at sjchilds.org. Helping autism families impact their child's developmental milestones through home relocation, community resources, and home designs. For every 3 homes Natalie Castro sells, she funds and designs a sensory room for a community center servicing individuals with autism. She volunteers to coach law enforcement, first responders, and ER nurses how to have a positive experience for individuals on the autism spectrum.